Hi, y'all. Carrie D here from Coffee with Carrie Homeschool Podcast. I hope that you are enjoying my new book, Homeschool High School, a handbook for Christian education. Now, for those of you who have read my book, you know that I spend an entire section giving you different ways that you could teach the different academic and different elective and extracurricular topics in a variety of ways. Okay. So today I want to talk with you about how to homeschool high school English. All right. Now, um, language arts, but usually the different states will talk about and they'll just call it English. Now, when it comes to making your 4-year plan and trying to decide what your student's going to learn and when your student's going to learn it, make sure you include your student, especially in this area, whether he or she loves writing or English or reading or language arts or they hate it. Make sure they're included in this because there are so many different ways that you can earn or your student can earn high school credit in the area of English. And I go through a whole bunch in my book. So I hope that you will get it. But here I wanted to share with you just some of our family favorite recommendations and resources and what we used and what we did when we were doing high school at home. Okay. So when it comes to English, depending on what state you live in, if you live in a state like mine, like California or Texas or Utah, where the requirements for graduation or the recommendations for graduation are very open, where here, those kind of states, it just says you need 3 years or 4 years of English. Doesn't tell you how, what kind of English, and none of that, just 3 years or 4 years of it. And then if you live in a state that's more strict, like say New York or Vermont, they're going to tell you, they might give you more specific things. Okay. So for the most part, we're going to be talking about English in general and what that looks like and what you can use for each of those. Okay, so first of all, when it comes to English, that could be literature. And that's where our mind usually goes to because most of us weren't homeschooled through high school. And so we typically think that you have to do a year of American Lit, you have to do a year of British Lit, and you might even have to do a year of World Lit or Ancient Lit. And that's really not true. Your student can do any kind of literature. They can learn, they could read classic literature. They could read all fantasy if you want. They can do a whole year of traditional American Lit if you want. But that's the beauty of it. You get to decide with your teen what kind of literature they're going to do. So if they decide that they want to spend the entire year reading really good books, whatever those books might be, you just need to come up with a book list of them to read and that they read them at their own pace. And then you have really good conversations with them about it. If you're a Charlotte Mason kind of a girl, they're still going to be narrating back to you, but just at a higher level. They're going to be telling you about the book and the character and all those wonderful things. Okay. So you can literally have your student read really good books all year long and give them high school credit in the English department. On the transcript, you can write it. Let's just say they did do all American Lit. You could write it as American Lit. Or if you want to just be very general and do it like the high schools do, you could just put English 9 if it's ninth grade, English 10 if it's 10th grade. You don't have to go into any specifics as to how they did or what they learned or what they read. Okay. Now, another thing that I totally recommend is when you're doing, if you're going to decide to have your student read their way for the whole year, just read really good books to earn their English credit that year, is to combine it with their history studies. That way you're killing two birds with one stone. So when you compile their list of books for them to read that you want them to read with you and with the family and on their own, it's also books that have to do with the history era or topic that they're going to be learning that year for high school. So let's just say they are going to do American history this year for high school credit. Then they're just going to read really great living books, historical fictions about American history or set during American history. They're going to read biographies and autobiographies of people in American history. They're going to be reading primary documents that are related to the founding of this country and that have to do with American history. So as they're reading their way through history, they're also reading great books. And so on their transcript, you can give them credit for American history, and then you can give them credit for literature or American lit or English 9 or English 10, however you want to write it down. Okay. They can spend a whole year reading great literature and poetry. And if that's what they did, you can just put on their transcript, literature and poetry. All right. So that is definitely the easiest way to get English credit, but I find it's also the most fun way to do it. Now, if you're not quite sure, okay, well, how do I compile these lists? We often used Beautiful Feet and My Father's World. Sometimes we used the entire curriculum, and sometimes I just used their book list and I went with what they recommended. And then I got those books either through Beautiful Feet or My Father's World or from the library or from Amazon. Okay. But both of those have high school level literature slash history integrated together. And the beautiful part about those is they also include Bible in that. Okay. So they're doing literature, they're doing history, they're doing Bible. And actually, My Father's World will also give you writing assignments as well that you can give to your student. Okay. Now, let's just say that your student isn't going to spend the entire year reading literature. You're going to spend a year working with them, or 2 years working with them, or all 4 years working with them on their writing skills. So they can earn English credit by reading great literature, or they can earn English credit by writing and composing. Okay. Now, when it comes to writing in high schools, moms are always like, I just don't know what to give them to do. I like to use the acronym PEN with an extra P. So the first P stands for poetry. The second P stands for persuasive writing. The E stands for expository writing, and N stands for narrative. So if sometime during the year your student reads or writes some poetry, your student writes at least one kind of persuasive essay or argumentative essay or persuasive speech. Sometime during that year, they write some sort of expository writing, and that's usually what we give them. That's research reports, compare and contrast. I mean, it's really fun to have them compare the movie versus the book version of a particular thing. Um, so compare and contrast how to or process essays, all of that is expository. So if they write just one of those or work on that during the year, and then N stands for narrative. And that's usually where creative writing comes in. This is where they're writing narratives, they're telling stories, right? And so if your student reads some memoirs or writes their own memoir or writes a short story or does their own creative writing and tells stories in some way, that's narrative writing, right? So they could spend the entire year just perfecting their composition and their grammar skills and their punctuation skills. And so that's one way to do it. If you're not quite sure, well, I don't know what to assign them or what to look for in those different types of writing, persuasive, expository, and narrative. Two of the ones that I particularly enjoy the most is IEW, Institute for Excellence in Writing. They have great high school level courses. You could do level C. They've got several of them with DVDs and streaming and homework assignments and writing assignments. It's all there for you. The student can do it on their own or with you. But they also have thematic resources that you can also use. So they have one for British Lit, they have one for World Lit, they have one for classical rhetoric readings. Okay. So they combine literature with the writing assignments, and it's all right there for you or for your student. You could even, if you want, just give them the resource, the IW resource, and off they go. And then all you have to do is read over their essays. Okay. But the beautiful part about IW is it usually comes with lots of checklists and assessment and evaluation ideas. And so it helps you figure out how to evaluate and how to help your student along the way. Now, if you want something that's just a little less structured and you're more of a writer like me, eclectic kind of, I love the Brave Writer as well. She's got some high school resources as well. Lots of great writing topics and tips and examples for persuasive, expository, narrative, but it's just not as structured as you're going to get with the IEW. So depending on your student, what they need, what they're looking for, any of those would work really well. Now, you could also have your student, if your student is a natural writer or he or she loves to write, they could literally spend the entire year writing a novel or writing an anthology of poetry or an anthology of short stories. And you never know. They may go on after they graduate or even during high school to publish what they wrote. So if they are spending an entire year writing their own novel, you can definitely give them credit for English or composition on their high school transcript. And there are several authors out there who were homeschooler, who homeschooled through high school, who published their own books before they graduated or after they graduated. So your student, if they like to write, can literally spend the entire year doing that. Okay. Also, another way that your student can earn high school English credit and college credit at the same time is to take one of the CLEP exams. So the CLEP exams are basically your student takes exam like English or literature or composition or American literature. And if they get a passing score, 50 or 60 or above, depending on what the university is looking for as a passing score, they get college credit for that particular college course. So they can get English 101, English 102, general ed or prerequisites out of the way while they're still in high school. And they're saving money doing it because it only, I think it costs 120, maybe $125 to take a CLEP exam. Whereas if you're taking a college level course in college, it's going to cost between $3,000 and $4,000 to take that class. So by taking the CLEP exam, prepping for the CLEP exam, taking the exam, passing it, not only are you getting high school English credit for it or high school literature credit for it, but you're also getting college credit for it. Now, one of the resources I absolutely love to use is a website called modernstates.org, and they help your students prep for the different CLEP exams. So these are at your own pace videos taught by college level professors at colleges like Tufts University, Brown University, USC, Yale. All those different universities, and they walk your student through all the things that they need to know and learn in order to pass the CLEP exam. And basically what it's saying is that by passing the CLEP exam, let's say in literature, that they're also learning all the material that they would learn in a college level literature class. Okay. So when they finish, so they pay for the course, which is I think $120, $125. They take it at their own pace. At the end of it, they get a voucher for that particular CLEP exam to take the exam for free. So basically for $120 or $125, they're getting a course, a how-to course, an instructional course, and the CLEP exam all for the same price. So it's 2 for 1. So that's just another way that you can have your student as they're prepping for a CLEP exam. You can give them credit on their high school transcript and just call it English or whatever CLEP exam they pass. You can just write it that way, British Lit or American Lit or composition. Okay. Now, even though they're teens, they're still not too old to play games. And so there are so many great games out there to enhance your students' vocabulary. So basically, once they get to high school, they're perfecting their writing. They are uh, getting their literature I'm trying to think of the word. They're expounding on the literature that they have read, right? The level and the themes, more mature in high school, but they're also expanding their vocabulary. All right. So there are some really great games out there. This is the best part. You can play the game with your high schooler and your whole entire family at the same time. Because a lot of times what happens when your kids get to the high school level, they're doing a lot more on their own or independently, and they're not spending quite as much time as they used to with the entire family. So by playing vocabulary games and spelling games with your teen and the whole family, it's an opportunity to all come together and have fun and learn together. Okay, so some really great games out there that we particularly loved, especially during the high school years. One is called Boulder Dash. Another one is called One Word. It's a new game, but it's really fabulous. Another one is Blurt. That one's absolutely so much fun. Of course, there's Scrabble because as their vocabulary gets bigger and better, the Scrabble game gets bigger and better. You're never too old to play Scrabble. Okay. So there is just so many vocabulary and spelling games out there that you can play with your teen and with the whole family. Now, this is going to sound odd, but if your student needs to really hone up on their grammar skills, you know, proper sentence structure, and if it's important to you that they know things like direct objects and indirect objects and dangling participles and things like that, then when they learn another language and they learn the grammar of Spanish, or they learn the grammar, especially of Latin, or they learn the grammar of German, they're also honing in and learning or relearning the grammar of English. And so it's really odd, but as they're learning a foreign language, they are actually getting better at English. And so just wanted to throw that out there. So hopefully, if you haven't read my book yet, Homeschool High School, A Handbook for Christian Education, you'll go get it now. It's at Amazon.com and Christianbooks.com. I go into way more depth in that meaty section, the middle part of the book, about how you can teach English and get high school English credit in a variety of ways, traditional ways, non-conventional ways, for the college-bound student, for the trade school student, for the student who really doesn't know what they want to do, for the student who wants to get out in the real world and just start writing or start their own business, or for the student that just knows that they're going to need a lot of communication skills for what they want to go into. I give you all kind of ways to do that for all those different students. Also, at my podcast, Coffee with Carrie Homeschool Podcast, I have tons of episodes on how to teach literature and English to the whole family as well as to high schoolers. And I also have episodes just on teaching high school, okay, or doing homeschool through the high school years. And if you're not quite sure, just go to my website, coffeewithcarrie.org. It'll take you to any and all the things that I have out there for you, including this video series on resources for the high school years. So I hope and pray that you will enjoy reading great literature with your high schooler and with your entire family.